There you go. There you go. Official now.
How are you?
Julian Bravo. I'm doing
How's it
great,
going?
man. How are you?
Good, good. I'm excited. Thank you for having me. It's pretty cool to be on and to see you, expand into a podcast. So it's awesome.
Yes, yes. So this is going to be the very first one. We're going to dive very deep into quite a few different things. And the main objective is to help and inspire other people to know that they might view a professional soccer player as, oh, that's the life, it's so wonderful and it's so great, but they don't know behind the scenes on
Yeah, absolutely.
what happens, the reality of training every day, not just now, but all the steps that you've taken to be there. So, my name is Talis Peterson. I am the host of the 1% Club podcast. I am the founder of the 1% Club and also the creator of the MindFlex method. That the idea is to help people change their mind 1% at a time, 1% a day, becoming more self aware, becoming a better person than they were before. And it's my pleasure to have as my very first guest on the podcast is a former player that I've seen his growth throughout his youth career, then college, then professionally as well. And when I first started the mentoring program, the 1% Club mentoring program, he was one of my very first client. So it he has gone through the process. So we're gonna dive deep into quite a few of those things. So Julian Bravo, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. I feel really honored to be the first guest. It's really exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's start off with the early days. Your first few years in soccer. How did you start? Why did you start? Family, dad. How did that all happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like kind of clear, but I feel like I was kind of born into it. Um, my dad played, grandparents, uncles, aunts, everyone in my family played.
Okay.
So when I was as little as I can remember, just get the ball in my feet, playing with my uncles in the backyard. I think my very first team was when I was 3 years old. I joined like a little kickers indoor team, and from there just kind of stuck with it. Slowly like improving, slowly like getting better and joining new teams. But yeah, just from when I could earliest memories, just always had that ball at my feet.
And is that in California?
Yeah, in Southern California. So I grew up in Claremont, California, and all my family was there. So we were always, super close. Everyone was over for parties, and every time, just ending the party with just like a little soccer game in the backyard. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. And where is your family originally from?
my family's from Mexico. My parents
Okay.
were born in Southern California, but my grandparents on both sides were born in Mexico.
So part of the culture there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how was it growing up with a family that has such a strong influence for soccer? Did you guys watch games growing up and your parents support like Chivas or America or anything like that? Was there any rivalries or anything like
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah. So it's funny. My mom's dad, my grandpa on my mom's side, he sports America, and then my dad's dad, he sports Chivas.
Oh,
So whenever they get together, it's always like, a little bit of a rivalry for sure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but no, it was great to have that kind of culture in the family. Just always kind of tied together through soccer.
Yeah.
The whole world is tied together through soccer, but it's really special when your whole family is tied together through it as well. Um, I got cousins, little baby cousins now who are starting to really enjoy soccer as well, and it's kind of cool to be that example for them. And obviously my siblings too, they grew up playing soccer as well. So, you know, them seeing me get to where I am, it's really gives me a lot of pleasure and happiness to be that example for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah.
just a little background here for everyone. Julian and I met in California where I lived for a very long time. And I used to coach him first, and then I ended up also coaching his younger brother. And so his history is he went from our youth academy, he was recruited, and you can tell a little bit
Yeah.
about your story now, but basically he was recruited to go to Santa Clara University, and then he was drafted by the Portland Timbers. He became a pro soccer player, and you can go on from there.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
are now, where you're playing, how life is going. Go ahead.
So even before that, even before the academy, um, I was really blessed to have my dad, he's very like thorough and he does his research. So he was always, looking at the best teams for me to play on. So when I was younger, I would always jump from team to team, not like super frequently, but once I kind of got to that end point, this team isn't, doing what it needs to for my development. My dad was on it, just looking for the next best team where I can continue to grow. So I think that really helped me early on. And then yeah, I actually before getting onto the academy with you at FC Golden State, I was on the PDA team. So that was like the B team back then, and the USDA Academy was the A team. But I remember trying out for the academy the first time and ultimately not making it, but still being put onto within the organization with the B team with the hope of, getting onto the academy team because at that time it was the best exposure for young, players looking to go to play college.
And how old were
And
you at this point?
I think I was 14. I was just going into high school, so I was 13, turning 14, I think, when I made the PDA team, the B team. And then when I was 16, going into my junior year, that was the academy tryouts this for the second time. And I remember it was like a week or two long of playing games and a big group of kids coming out to try out because everyone wanted. And Golden State at the time was like one of the best, non-MLS academies, so everyone wanted to be a part of that team. So it was very competitive. And I remember like after the first day, like you kind of as a coaching staff, you kind of set your team early on. You kind of have, you have the returners coming and um, guys you think are gonna make the team. And I wasn't included in like some of the top level players, I guess you can say. So I
Yeah, yeah.
was getting a little bit discouraged early on in the week, but um, my parents knew how much I wanted to be on the team. So, you know, they really pushed me to continue the week out, the tryout out, and at the end of the tryout, I was fortunate enough to make the team, and I still had a lot of work to do. I knew that, and you made that clear, but it was just felt so good to finally make that jump after 2 years of not like being at the top level. Felt really good.
So take us back a little bit to what you said, because the people that are going to be watching us, a lot of them are parents, a lot of them are players that want to go to the next level. And the reason
Yeah,
why I asked what age were you is because a lot of people, they get discouraged when they're, very young, sometimes
yeah,
11, 12, and oh, I'm not on the A team, I'm not playing the best league. So guys, this is someone that is currently playing professionally, plays at the highest level, and at 14 he wasn't on the best team in the club. He didn't make it. So that happens to everyone. So whatever path anybody here watching you're on, make sure that you stay true to development, to getting better. And it's not just about the leagues. So when you didn't make it the first time, so you go back to the PDA team, And how are you feeling? How is that season? What lessons did that teach you?
Yeah, for sure. I ultimately I was discouraged at the beginning, because I felt like I was training really well for that first initial tryout. I felt like I was at that level to where I could to make that jump after the first tryout. But when they put me on the second team, I was like kind of discouraged as to whether or not I could make it to the first team. But it was a 2 year process essentially. And looking back on it now, like it was a lot of good development, a lot of good lessons that I learned within those 2 years on the second team. But even then, like I wasn't even in the starting lineup. I remember the first like couple of months I was coming off the bench, kind of getting my feet wet with a new team. But then, just kind of sticking with it little by little, I kind of broke through into the lineup more and more, and then kind of got my flow, made more friends on the team. That helped me with my confidence. And then, you know, we would have training sessions where we mix, the academy and the PDA. So, training with the top level players at that time, also helped, kind of seeing the difference in the level at that age helped me prepare for when I ultimately did get on the team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And for everybody here watching, at the time, it was the Development Academy, which is the equivalent to what the MLS Next is
Yeah, exactly.
nowadays. And the first time, the first year when Julian didn't make the team, I was coaching the 99 2000. And then the second year when he came back, so the 99s graduated, so they went over to the next team up, and then it was just purely the 2000s. And the 90 our 99 2000 was one of the best teams in the country at the time. We had finished the league in second place, and we had made the playoffs, and we made it all the way to the semifinals of the playoffs in the whole country. So it was a highly competitive team. So then finally you make the team, you are on the academy, and I remember talking to you. Do you remember kind of
Yes, I
some of the
do.
things that
I
I
do.
had told you?
Yeah, I remember one of the questions you asked me, you were like, "Will you run? Will you run?" Because at the time, I kind of wanted to, I don't know, be relaxed and not do as much work. I was good on the ball, so
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want to have to run if I didn't have to. But I remember you asking me like, "Will you run?" Because at that level, you had to work just as hard off the ball and just as much as you were on the ball. But it's funny looking back because every level above that in college and professional, you're running as much as you can, So it's a funny thing to look back on and see how relevant it is like to my situation today. Like, but
Absolutely.
yeah,
Now, Julian, before we move on to you going to college and everything like that, take us back one more time to your first influences. What did you have a role model? Was it your dad, your uncle, someone that coached you? Do you remember? Did you have a first coach that was a big influence? Sometimes we remember something that an
yeah,
old
for sure.
coach or someone from the family or my grandpa told me when I was little that I still
Yeah,
remember. Do you have someone that comes to mind?
no, there's definitely a few. I've been fortunate enough to have many people in my life that have always supported me and wanted the best for me. Obviously, my parents are a big influence. You know, I'm one of five. I'm the oldest of five, and we all played soccer. So growing up, it was every weekend we're splitting up. My dad's taking a couple of my siblings to one spot, and my mom's taking the other few. So
And
they were
Southern
a big.
California, things are far away.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we're not seeing each other that much on the weekends. So yeah, definitely thankful for my parents. But I think my biggest influence is definitely my Tío Herman. Um, I started training with him when I was like 10 years old, um, just like extra training.
Yeah.
doing like speed and agility work and setting a good foundation for like taking care of my body and being as quick as possible and being as strong as possible. Um, and even now, like he's somebody that provides me with a lot of guidance, a lot of good mentorship, good direction. And I'm really grateful for that. I remember one of the earliest things that I kind of learned from him was to kind of make the most of my time and not to waste my time or other people's time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was, I think I was like 12 and I was having like growing pains. I was starting to grow a little bit.
Okay.
Um, and he was working as like a physical therapist, physical assistant at that time at a clinic. And he brought me into his facility so I can get more rehab, take care of my body, get stronger so I would minimize those pains.
Yeah.
And I remember one time he brought me to the parking lot and I was kind of like going through the motions, not really wanting to do all that work because it was tedious. And I was younger at that time, it's kind of a lot for a young kid to kind of be going through, but it was a great lesson because he was like, if I'm going to bring you here, make sure you're not wasting my time, you're not wasting my boss's time, and you're not wasting your time because I was, I was, I was able to have that facility for free, like access to that facility.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was getting a favor done for me. And he was just like, make the most of, this opportunity because we're trying to help you. And whenever someone's trying to help you, make sure you're appreciative and you're not, wasting their time. So I think from then on, I was really adamant about like making sure I'm doing the work right and putting in my fullest effort because it's not just me that it's affecting other people as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's a great life lesson as well
Yeah,
that you can carry on for whatever other area of life is. That can be applied to
yeah,
school, to business, to soccer, to anything really.
absolutely. And you know, ever since 10 years old to now, I always train with him in the off season. Making sure that my body is as well prepared, for the next season, getting all the touches I need, when I'm not training with a team, So really lucky to have him as that kind of mentor and guidance.
Which I know
Yes, you
Herman
do.
very well as well. He used to coach for
Yes,
Golden State also, so I know. And Herman, I know you're gonna be watching this. Thank you for everything that you've done for our boy here. You are a great influence on him, and we are truly thankful for you.
absolutely. Yes.
And Julian, let's talk a little bit now. Before we go to college, let's talk about our academy days. Let's
Okay.
talk
Yes, that's
about
it.
that year, that season. It's funny, I recorded a few videos for YouTube as well, where I'm talking about my history and some of the best moments. And that was taking away, obviously, the days that my kids were born. That day, that we beat Galaxy at
Yes.
Galaxy was incredible. Incredible. They had quite a few national team players, and it came down to the very last game of the league. They were 2 points ahead of us. We were 2 points behind. So for us, it was a must win game. And then, oh my gosh, this guy scores a goal that I will never forget. Can you tell us what's going through your mind? Can what do you remember from that season, from that game, the way we got up to that point where is the final game of the season and we have a chance to winning the league? Can you
Yeah, absolutely.
take us back there, please?
That was a great year for me and for the whole team. It's just so many good memories. I remember throughout the season, kind of having, ups and downs and trials and tribulations, missing out on points, missing out on, teams, beating teams where we should beat them, and then I can't remember if it was like midway through the season or towards the end of the season, but you made it pretty clear that we needed to work as hard as possible to be able to like shoot for the championship at the end of the year. And I remember,
It was 9 games. We had nine
nine
games
games.
left.
Oh
We
my
won nine
goodness.
games in a row.
Okay, I didn't remember that. Wow, that's amazing. So I remember like Tuesdays and Thursdays we'd have finishing clinic right before training, like an hour before training. You
So
made it to like
tell everyone what we did. We did training before training.
before training, and that was Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I think it was like an hour or whatever, hour and a half. You'd have everybody out, just doing finishing clinic or other different things to help us prepare for the game on the weekends. But then on Wednesdays we'd go to the arena, and I remember we had cones set up in the parking lot, and we were doing like agility and strength and all this, and it was tough, at that time because every day for the last part of the season, before training, we're having another training. But I
And
remember,
on Wednesday, we would do game film as well.
oh
We would
yes,
we
game film. I
would
forgot
watch
about that.
film.
Yes, yep,
Yeah.
in the movie room at the arena, the Upland Arena. It was nice for me because Upland is really close to Claremont, so that one didn't bother me as much. But the Tuesdays and Thursdays before training, I was like, man, this is this is kind of tough.
This is a
Uh,
lot. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I remember going through that period of time where we needed to put more, and flip into an extra gear, if we really wanted to have a chance at winning, the title at the end of the year. But, you know, come the last game, we had, our pre-game talk, on the side. I'll never forget the speech you gave us because it was like it got us really fired up and really like, ready to go through a brick wall, for the last game, which we needed. But I remember you said like these guys, they have everything, the facilities, they have the coaches, they have everything, and we're training in a parking lot on Wednesdays, trying to fight for our season here. Like, who do you think is going to come out on top? Is it going to be them or is it going to be it's up to us?
It's giving me
And
chills right now,
right,
remembering
yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And we came out flying that game. It was I mean, Danny had a great game. I remember, he had I think 2 goals that game, and it was just honestly one of the best games of my youth career. What was the final score? 5-5-4, 5-3.
I was trying to remember. It was either 5-2 or 5-3.
Yeah,
I think it was 5-3. If I'm not, I don't know exactly, but you scored one, and then
I
Danny
scored
scored
one.
four.
He scored four. Okay, wow. I don't remember that, but yeah, he had a great game that day. Um, but yeah, honestly, one of the best games of my youth career because one, we won the league that game. It was kind of a perfect top off to the last part of the season where we're just grinding and working every day, and that feeling of like winning something after, having to go through so much was just like the best, payoff ever. And
The
on top of
reward
that,
came. Yeah.
yeah, the reward. On top of that, my whole family was there, distant cousins, the uncles, so having the opportunity to score that goal, that rocket, outside the box, or the keeper kind of like couldn't stop it and it goes into the corner. Like it felt so good, and just it really like put into perspective, like if you're willing to work for it and do whatever it takes, the payout and the reward is gonna feel like the best feeling in the world.
Absolutely. So again,
And
guys, whoever is watching this, if you're going through something, keep on going. Those guys, they won the league against the best youth academies in the country. LA Galaxy, Real Salt Lake, Seattle Sounders, Portland Timbers. Oh my gosh, our league was super, super tough at
yeah,
the time, and we were able to be one of the best teams in the country. And so what happens at this point now, Julian, not only he is a starter, but this guy is completely transformed. He is running, he's tackling, he's giving his life basically on the field to a point that sometimes I have to tell him, hey, Jules, like, take it easy now. When before I had to motivate him to go,
yeah.
and fast forward a few months, I get a call from Yamo from Santa Clara, and he goes, "Hey, we're looking at Jules. We're ready to offer him. We're ready to give him a full ride. What do you think?" And I was like, What? You're asking me what I think? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what's the process from being in the youth academy to now the next level? What happens first? The recruitment process, how did that work? And then take us through college. What happens in college? How is that process for everyone to know?
Yeah, for sure. So once I was on the academy team, I knew I was going to get more exposure. A lot of the college coaches are recruiting kids out of the academy. Now MLS Next, but now it's a little bit different. But anyways, I was sending a lot of emails to as many coaches as I could, just trying to put my name out there. Um, and I think for me, one of the biggest stepping stones was the showcase that we had at the end of the year, where all the college coaches come and do their recruiting pretty vigorously. Um, but after I got my initial offer from Santa Clara, I was kind of trying to use that to leverage other schools to kind of give me an offer as well because I wanted as many options as I could before I made my decision.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I did get some interest from other schools. I think UCI was one of them, Fullerton, San Diego. So it was nice to kind of have that, you know, the desire from other teams,
Yeah, yeah.
to have me on their team. Um, but once I got that offer, I set up an official visit with Santa Clara. They had me out to their school. The coaches showed me around the facility. I got to meet the players and stay the night with one of the guys on the team, which is a cool experience. You kind of get, a feel for what college life is like. But there's a lot of like decisions you have to make. You got to make sure the school is the right fit for you because it's pretty easy to kind of jump onto like that first offer or that first kind of piece of attention and not ultimately get the right fit and end up transferring and you're wasting a year or two and
Yeah.
you're not seeing the field. So for me, I was lucky enough to um, have a good fit with Santa Clara.
What were one of some of the main things that you took in consideration when choosing finally the school? Was just the offer itself? Did you look at their playing style? Did you look at the coaching staff, the city, the dorm? What else did you consider? A
Yeah,
major?
yeah, I was pretty thorough with everything, and I think thanks to my dad, like I said, he's very thorough as well. Um, I was looking at the location. I didn't want to be too far from home. Because I was going to school at like 17. I think I graduated high school at 17, so I was still pretty young. So I wanted it to be pretty close to home, but far enough to where I could be on my own and kind of explore, the new side of like living on my own and growing. I was definitely looking at the soccer side of it, how they played, if I could come in and get some minutes or become a starter and push myself. I was looking at the facilities. Not every school has the same facilities. Santa Clara had some pretty good facilities because, luckily they have a lot of donors and the basketball team brings in some good revenue. So the facilities were pretty good. We played in a pretty good stadium. We had our own soccer locker room, our own soccer facility. I was also looking at the school if my major was there, and luckily it was. I studied psychology, um, and it was a pretty good school for the most part academically. And then I think what the selling point for me was obviously the campus was beautiful and the people were really nice and welcoming, but it was a Catholic school, and I grew up Catholic. So having that foundation built into the school
Yeah.
was really like giving me a lot of peace in my decision.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We'll talk about that side as well. We'll
Yeah,
talk
for
about
sure.
the faith in a little bit. So tell us. So now you are in college. You are a freshman. Are you playing right away? Are you not seeing the field? What's going on? Is the coach clear with you guys? Does he tell you specifically, "Hey, you're gonna play. You're not gonna play. This is your role," or what's it like in college? How many guys on the roster? How are you feeling at this point?
I'm feeling great. Being in a new environment was a little nerve-wracking at first, but I had a lot of cool friends that I made. We had an incoming class of 10 freshmen, so there was
Wow.
a big chunk of us, yeah, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
coming into that new environment together. So we kind of leaned on each other throughout really everything that first year. But I was pretty almost like big headed in a way that I thought that I was going to come in and start right away, coming from, a good year, coming off a good year with the academy, being one of the top player, one of the guys that were going to college. So it was kind of a wake up call for me when I wasn't starting. I was getting some minutes, but not as much as I liked. And I think because there's so many of us in the incoming class and incoming freshman class, we kind of were a little like egotistical.
Yeah, yeah.
And the older guys kind of put us in our place really quick. They made us understand that we had a role to play and we weren't going to be like the top dogs right away.
Yeah, yeah.
We had to work our way up to earning respect almost. So that was a good lesson for me because it was kind of getting to the point where like the coaches were having to pull us aside and say like, you guys got to really understand that there's a totem pole here. There's a hierarchy, and you got to earn your way to becoming a starter, to earning minutes, and having that place in the team.
Everything is earned, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
and
then,
I think for me it was I was kind of biting off more than I could chew because I was living on my own, and I had access to parties and girls, and doing everything the way I wanted to.
yeah.
Rather than like having my parents there all the time. You got to do this and this and this at these times. It was free flowing for me, and it's easy to kind of get distracted. Um, so yeah, having that kind of foundation with the team to kind of set me straight early on was really helpful.
And how did you manage to not let your emotions control you? Obviously, you want to play. You are an amazing player. You have the level to play. So when you're getting some minutes but not as much as you would like to, did you have any techniques? What did you do to stay grounded, to still believe in yourself and not to lose confidence and not just say, oh, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just gonna party and do whatever. How did you manage to stay focused?
I think that I had to make a lot of mistakes at first to really understand what I valued. Um, Ultimately, I valued being a professional. I always wanted to you know, play at the highest level that I could from early on. So understanding that, that scholarship or that place on my team could easily be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
I was only going to get so many chances to mess up before like it wasn't going to be, you know, there for me anymore.
What's
So
Go ahead, yeah.
yeah, just having that understanding that like it can be taken away from you at any point. And especially in college, if your grades aren't good, you're not playing.
And you said something about uh making mistakes, learning from the mistakes, and that's a big thing nowadays that a lot of kids are afraid of making mistakes, especially on the field. What we're talking about now is you off the field and doing the stuff that you are trying to do to get playing time and so on. Can you tell us, was there a moment that it was like an eye opener where you said, you know what? If I don't give my all, I don't think I'm going to play. Was there a turning point where you said, yes, I am able to do it and I'm going to go fight for it?
Are you talking about in college or just any time?
in I'm talking about in college at this same time that you said I learned from my mistakes, but I could only do so many. Was there one specific moment that it was like a turning point where you said,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, got it. This is it. I gotta focus.
yeah, absolutely. So the first 2 years I was having those lessons early on.
Yeah.
Um, but then there was a big lesson my junior year with the COVID bubble. That was
Okay.
a
Yeah.
huge I don't know what to say,
Mess.
lesson. Yeah, huge mess. There was so much going on, so many unknowns. Um, I was so the very first thing that I remember was, school shutting down, us going home, and then, not knowing if we were going to have a season or not. Um, but then ultimately coming back to school, and I had plans to live off campus, but the school was super conscious about keeping the players in a bubble and safe, not spreading the virus,
Yeah.
if we were going to have a season. So they moved us all into the dorms, and I'm a junior at this point. I'm ready to live off campus and have my own apartment, have my own roommates, and I'm kind of grown out of the dorm life at that point. So I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
having to pay rent in my off-campus house and not even live in the house. I still had to live in the dorm.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was really frustrating for me because I'm just wasting money at this point. Like I don't want to have to do that. So because of those little things, all the tedious testing every day, wearing your mask, paying for a house I'm not living in, I was getting really frustrated and breaking the rules at that point, the rules of staying confined to the bubble and only interacting with my teammates. Me and my teammates kind of say, you know what, forget this, it's life sucks right now. We're gonna
Forget this
just
BS. Yeah.
exactly, we're just gonna go out and have fun and live the college life, because the season coming up is not really a season. So why do we have to take it seriously? So we were going out and going to parties and doing all this stuff, and eventually we got caught, and our athletic director got really upset at us. Had to sit down with her, and she was like, if you guys aren't going to take this seriously, if you guys aren't going to keep each other safe, then I'm just going to have to start cutting people and sending people home.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay. Yeah.
and so she left it up to the coaches to kind of decide, who are going to be the ones to push this program forward and who are going to be the ones holding the program back. So I remember sitting with the coaches and kind of telling them what was going on and kind of pleading for forgiveness and trying to prove my worth to the program. And they were kind of on the fence with me, because I had those issues beforehand. So they're like, "Are we gonna give this guy another chance and
Wow.
kind of
Yeah.
risk it, or are we gonna kind of not have to deal with him anymore?" So I remember I had to send a letter to the athletic director apologizing for the mistakes that I made. Some other guys had to do that as well. I wasn't the only one, but um, that was really oh my gosh, I was this close to not being a part of the program anymore. So after that, as a collective, as a team, we were really wow, I could have been kicked off. Luckily, I wasn't. But we
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
sat down and looked at ourselves and we're like, we got to take this seriously because once again, it could be taken away from you at any moment. And ultimately, we were at a really low point with getting caught and almost getting kicked off. That we kind of turned it around. We stuck to the bubble. We trained really hard. We had to be confined to the dorm, so we took studies really, really hard as well. And that honestly was a really good way for us to grow together because, you know, we learned more about each other. We grew as a unit, and that next year we won the conference.
Oh, wow.
That was the next year was my senior year. We won the conference, and all that work that we did within the bubble, training really hard and all that good stuff, really helped us to really dominate the conference as well. We were undefeated in the in that year.
Wow.
So yeah, there was just, that like really low point turned, into a high point because of, once again, like all the things that we did, every day. And then, the following that season was the year I got drafted. So things have a crazy way of working out, to where, you don't see it at that time where, the light at the end
The
of the tunnel
invisible
is
work.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, it was a big lesson for me there.
Yeah, so it's funny how life works because it could have gone completely different. Imagine if you're now all of a sudden you're taking your scholarship away, you're not part of the soccer program anymore. You're basically just wasting another year trying to find a new school to go, and that's part of growing up. That's part of
Exactly.
becoming a man, becoming self accountable, and knowing what the ultimate goal is. And also, something that I am a firm believer, and we're going to go into it a little bit later, is what God's plan is for you.
Yeah.
You have to do your part. You have to trust, you got to have faith, but you also have to do your part, because a lot of people, they like asking, but when it comes down to putting in the daily work and what I was saying to you just now, the invisible work, you see, it seems sometimes like, oh my gosh, do I keep going? I don't see any progress. That's exactly how it works. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not like, oh, wow, now all of a sudden it happened. No, no, no. Things don't happen all of a sudden. It's a lot of
Yeah.
time that came beforehand. And you said now we go to you being drafted. And I'm going to tell you my side of that story is I used to go to the gym in Chino. It was like the Chino Hills area. And that day, I remember I was getting to the gym. I'm in the parking lot, and I get a phone call, Gerardo Bravo. And I answer the phone, and your dad is crying. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Gerardo, what happened? And he goes, Julian was drafted. Then I start crying as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, tell me more. So
Yeah.
can you walk us through that moment, like in your shoes? What's going on? How did that all happen?
Yeah. So the draft is in January, and our season at Santa Clara ended in like November. So from like December, mostly December, I was kind of talking with an agent at that time. He was kind of guiding me through, like the next phase. So I
Yeah,
kind of had that idea that, eventually I'd get drafted. At that time, I had still a fifth year available
because of
because
the
of the
bubble.
bubble. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was planning on staying and playing my fifth year at Santa Clara. So the idea was after the fifth year, then I'd get drafted. Um, so talking with him, kind of like figuring out that plan. But I remember um, there's an eligibility list for the draft coming up. So all these players have to be first put on the eligibility list in order to be drafted to an MLS team. And I remember being on that list, and I think it was like 350 people at that time for that class. It's like,
Yeah,
wow, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm getting that exposure. I just came off a good senior year. Hopefully, I can build on it next year and really like solidify, my draft stock and really get selected high in the draft next year. But yeah, so come draft day, it was like January 11th, I think I remember 2022, and Santa Clara had just gotten back into the flow of school, and we were hybrid, kind of coming off of the bubble. So
yeah.
half of school was online, half of school was in person. And that day I had one online class and then one in-person class. So the draft started and I was giving a presentation on my online class. So I had my computer here and then the draft on my iPad over here,
Yeah,
just kind of keeping track of it, seeing,
yeah. Just
what's
like
going on.
glancing over.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
still trying to present a presentation, in my class. I have to give all my focus into the class. But it was more so just like seeing the competition that I was playing against and who was getting drafted from there.
Yeah.
But anyways, like my class ends, my presentation's over, and I have to go into in-person class now. So I can't really take my iPad. So I shut it down and whatever, kind of throw it in the back of my head, not really thinking much about it. And I walk over to class, and I remember at the start of class, like I had to put my phone away. I can't be on it. I can't check up on who's getting drafted. But within like the first 10 minutes of class starting, I get like a phone call and I can't answer. So I just, send it to voicemail, and then
Yeah.
another one and another one and then text. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
What's going on? Yeah,
So then
yeah.
I look at my phone and there's just I remember seeing my dad's message first, and he like sent me a little snippet, and it's just my name, and it's Julian Bravo selected to the Portland Timbers. I'm like, no way, like this dude's messing
Oh
with
my
me or something.
gosh,
Yeah.
is this
And I'm
real?
like, I'm like scrolling through, like kind of hiding it at the same time. I'm like, oh my gosh, like people are calling me, and I'm getting Twitter notifications and Instagram notifications. So then I go up to my teacher and I'm like, hey, like something just came up. Can I be excused? And he's like, yeah, yeah, for sure.
Let me get the heck out of here.
So then I go into the hallway, and then I get a phone call from my one of my best friends, and I answer, and it's a FaceTime, and it's like going crazy. He's running. He's running from my apartment all the way across campus over to my classroom. He's like, "Where are you? You
Oh,
just got
towards
drafted!" Like,
you.
yeah, towards me. He's
Yeah,
running to
yeah,
me, and it's still crazy. I can't really hear him that well. I'm like, I'm in the art building. Like, what do you? It's like, you just got drafted. And they get there in like 2, 3 minutes, and then they start screaming in the hallway, like, you just got drafted. It was three of them,
yeah.
and
Oh my
all
gosh.
screaming. And then and then my teacher comes out, and he's like, hey, is everything okay? Like, I heard the screaming from inside. He's like, and my friend is like, are you serious? Like, this guy just got drafted. Like, everything is perfect. Like, it's so cool. And the
Everything is
teacher, he did
great, not
every
okay.
yeah. my teacher is like, drafted. Like, what does that mean? And then my friend is like, he's gonna play professional soccer. Like, he's done it. And then my teacher's like, no way, that's awesome. You know what? Like, he was super cool. Like, he's like, take the rest of the day off. Like, don't even worry about like the schoolwork. Just kind of go enjoy the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I left class super fast, grabbed all my things, and went straight to my apartment. Opened up a celebratory beer, and had a really good
Oh,
night with
what a
my yeah.
feeling.
It was so cool. Like from not really expecting to get drafted, to like going into class, kind of doing the whole student life, and then like all of a sudden it just flipped, and my friends are making that moment really special for me, and then my teacher being really cool about it, and then going out with my friends and celebrating and having a really fun time. Like, it was a good culmination of just like emotions and like relief, after all the hard work and all those years of different things going on. Just, it felt really good.
Years, years. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, like we were talking about before. It's not overnight
No,
success. Takes
no,
years.
I was really lucky that my friends really made it a really special moment for me, and all the people. I remember the message that you sent me. You sent me, that voicemail or the voice message. I could hear it in your voice. The emotion and the pride. So it was really nice to have all those people, make that moment very special for me.
That is so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Now, take us to becoming a pro. Now, you've made it. You're there. What's going on? What happens? How is it? How's the first day? What do you look for? What do you do? Where do you go? Like what happens?
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a lot of information given to me.
Yeah,
Um, and in my particular situation, it was, a lot of questions that I needed to answer because of the fifth year, particularly.
yeah,
Um, so the NCAA has a rule that if you're trying to maintain your eligibility, I don't know if the rule has changed now, but when I got drafted, if I was gonna come back and play another year, the team that drafted me can only put me up in like a hotel and pay for my meals for 48 hours. After the 48 hours, you kind of gotta be on your own and
oh
figure it out.
wow, okay, yeah, yeah,
So I was just trying to figure out if I was going to go or if I was going to stay. And if I did go, how long would I, be on trial for, fighting for a contract. So there's just a lot of, research and questions I needed to answer. But ultimately, I ended up going, and with that timeline of 48 hours, not knowing if they'd offer me a contract in 48 hours. So, when I got there, they put me up in a hotel, and then I got a ride to training, and going into the facility was pretty cool because I'm seeing people that are playing that I was watching growing up with Sebastian Blanco, Diego Chara, all those guys. So it's pretty like a pretty humbling experience, pretty nerve-wracking experience. All of them are doing, their routines, eating breakfast, they have a chef in the facility, and all the staff is there, welcoming you, but making sure like you know, you have like your physicals done, you're doing your prep work and all that stuff. So there's a lot of like moving parts on the first day.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I remember, like kind of coming in while everyone was having breakfast, and I saw my luggage and everything, and shaking everyone's hand, kind of nervous, but trying to make a good impression. I'm Julian, nice to meet you, whatever. Um, and then they put me into like not the first team locker room, but like a separate locker room on the side. So all the guys that got drafted are in that locker room. So you're kind of in that group that's like there that hasn't made it, but there's on trial, they're trying to fight for a contract. So you're kind of like, I was a little nervous,
Yeah, of
not
course.
knowing anybody, you know, not knowing if I was good enough to compete at that level. Um, and yeah, just it was just a new and nerve-wracking experience. And then going out into training, it was kind of more of the same, if not a little bit more nerve-wracking, because now you have to like
Really show
demonstrate, yeah,
what's up.
what you have. And there's kind of like this air where the veterans are trying to do their thing and not have some new kid kind of come in and mess up the flow or think that he's bigger than the rest. So I was trying not to step on any toes, kind of just stay quiet and put my head down and just do what I was told.
Yeah, yeah.
um but yeah, then there was the other side of it off the field where I had to kind of figure out if I was going to stay, where I would live, or how I was going to get the training, and all these other things. So there was, the the piece where I had to perform on the field, but then also, once I was done with training, all these other things I had to figure out.
All the logistical things as well.
Exactly, exactly. So I reached out to my coach at Santa Clara, Cam, and tried to see if there was anybody he could put me in contact with to kind of stay with them. And he did. But then I also reached out to one of my friends from Santa Clara, and she was from Portland. So I kind of, on a whim, was like, hey, like, do your parents have, a place for me to stay?
Can I
Um,
crash
can
tonight?
I crash at your place?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, totally. Like, she was super cool about it. Like, she said that her parents are empty nesters. Like, it's just them. They would love to have you over and kind of take care of you. And it's super cool that you're playing for the Timbers, a team that's pretty well known in the community over there. So yeah, she asked her mom, and her mom was like, of course. She reached out to me and said, come over and you can stay as long as you want. And I was like, no, like, thank you. I'm gonna only be here for a couple of days. I'm not gonna impose on you guys whatsoever. I
Don't want to
remember coming up,
overstay. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I remember coming up to the door, and I never met this lady before. So I was knocking on the door, really nervous, not knowing how the interaction was going to be. But from the very first moment, like, she opened the door, she was super welcoming, and made it a point to tell me that I could stay as long as I wanted. Ultimately, ended up staying with them for a month and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, and every day, like, they were such a big blessing to me, because if it wasn't for them, I probably would have been bouncing around from place to place and trying to figure out my contract, or might have even gone back to Santa Clara and, not had the opportunity. Um, but yeah, every day, they were both the mom and the dad, were driving me to and from training, picking me up, making me dinner, making sure I was comfortable, and really made it a pleasant experience so that the only thing I had to focus on was just playing soccer. And, it took a month and a half for me to finally earn a contract and then move out of their place. But
What a blessing. Yeah.
such a good blessing. And luckily, I mean, funny enough, they also went to Santa Clara. The parents went to Santa Clara. They met at Santa Clara, lived in Portland, had a daughter and a son. The daughter went to Santa Clara, and that's how I got in contact with them, and that's how I know. And I'm still friends with them today. I still reach out to them and give them updates about things going on in my life, and they really,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. So, since you mentioned quite a few things, I'm going to jump a little and say a few things here about faith and about spirituality and all of that.
yeah.
When you said I had a friend and like on a whim, I just called her, and I'm going to tell you something. Those things, those instincts, basically, where we don't really know where that comes from, if we really stop to think about it, there is no synchronicities. There isn't in it's not an accident that happened. You got that intuition, you got that memory that you had that friend from somewhere, and the way it all works. And oh, and it turns out that they had gone to Santa Clara. Stop for a second and really think about that you stayed in there for a month and a half, and because you were already there, you had a chance to earn your contract. Otherwise it would have gone completely different. So I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the moment that it could have been different when you were in college as well. You could have gone one way, but you went another way. So it is, there is a saying in Brazil that God writes uh, perfectly, but sometimes the lines are not straight. So if we really think about the blessings that we've had, and also the difficult times that we've had, there's always a lesson behind. So take me through your faith. What keeps you grounded? Because you said you went to Santa Clara because it was also a Catholic school, so you grew up that way. And also, what do you think about this? Where do you think that came from? You calling your friend, and like how everything. If now that you talk about it, you're like, wow, that really happened. Like it was a sequence of events that unfolded in a way that it was just perfect. So
Yeah, absolutely.
the timing of it is, sometimes we get so stuck into our own mind. And I'm going to get a little bit even deeper now, because my idea is to change people's minds, going from mindset to mind flex. So, how do we change our minds? How we change our views, our perspectives? And I'm sorry, I'm not letting you talk, but
No, no.
take me through your faith, and what do you think about your path, the way it happened, the way it unfolded. What can you say about it?
I think that there's just been so many things that have worked out in my life that are almost unexplainable, where it can't be anything other than, God's perfect timing. And I think recently, more than ever, like I'm understanding just how much God has played a big role in my life, just by understanding like his word and reading the Bible and getting my family, my family's getting together and doing Bible study every week, and there's just like this sense of peace and comfort when you look to him and give, your attention and your gratitude towards him, that like things just in my personal space have just worked out perfectly. Like from the drafted story to, you know, people who are willing to take me into their home to, you know, almost getting kicked off of, you know, my Santa Cruz, or even earning I remember praying for a full ride scholarship every day when I was, in the academy, even before then, just like something that I really wanted. I pray every day for it. And,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
happened. Obviously, I was put in situations where I was forced to grow in order to get there. But the way that those situations kind of turned out were, like so they were exactly what I needed in order to
It,
take those steps,
it's
and it's
happening for you. It's not
yeah,
happening to you. You just have to
yes.
read.
And it's pretty astounding to think about, because there's not a level of understanding to where we can, fully grasp it clearly or fully, am I making sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So
So
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I think just especially when I was, kind of transitioning into being a professional, there's a lot of times where you get lonely, if you're not, spending time with other people or at the facility. So you can get caught up in like, oh, I'm not playing, or I'm hurt. I'm not, where I should be. Um, and there's just a lot of things, that might not be going your way. So for me, it was a way to kind of escape and kind of search comfort just by sitting down and praying, or sitting down and opening the Bible, or journaling, and really kind of understanding what I really should be grateful for,
Yeah. Yeah.
because soccer isn't, my whole life. It's something that, you know, is going on in my life. And there's so many other things that I can shift my focus on that will help me, navigate through the difficulties that soccer brings, or anything brings, really.
Absolutely. And I remember when we were doing the mentoring program, when we were working together, something that you said that always stuck to me was, I've always dreamed of being a professional soccer player, but nobody told me that I was going to face so many difficulties, as far as, being alone and staying in a hotel, and, being away from family at special occasions, and you're traveling, you're on a plane, you're playing a game, and then you got to travel to the next city. It's not, people think, oh, when I accomplish this goal, that's going to bring me happiness. Is I teach everyone all the time. It's not about not having difficulties, it's learning how to deal with the difficulty in a better way, by becoming more aware, by becoming more grounded, by having faith, by having a higher purpose. So you mentioned journaling. Take us to the moment that we are working together, and one of the practices that we did together was journaling.
Yeah.
How has that helped you?
I think that's been a really big part of releasing. There's a lot of things that, you can kind of carry on in your mind and in your brain at any given moment. And it can really build up when you're anxious, or when you're dealing with a lot of difficulties or hardships. So at that time when we were working together, I was on the second team at Portland with aspirations to sign with the first team. Um, kind of thinking like, okay, maybe in a couple months, like I'll get my opportunities and I'll sign. A couple months passes and it doesn't happen. So there was a time in my life where I was expecting more and not getting what I was expecting. So it was really hard on me mentally.
Yeah.
So the journaling really allowed me to, one, shift my focus on the things that I should be grateful for instead of the things that I was lacking.
Yeah.
And two, it allowed me to release, all the anxieties and negativity and really see on paper like all the things that are weighing heavy on me and then kind of tackling, you know, all those little things one by one. Should I really be, you know, worried about this thing that I keep thinking about? It's not the end of the world. I can see it. I can visibly see it on paper. Like, how can I manage it now? How can I overcome it? So it was a really good way for me to release like all the things internally.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I am very glad. And Julian, how about your mind? What do you think? How has your mind evolved throughout the years from the youth academy to college to playing pro to we're going to get in a little bit what you're doing today, but how has your mind evolved? What kind of skills do you believe that you had to acquire in order to be able to, go to the next level? Because you've been on a path that you're growing, you're always going, you're leveling up,
Yeah,
basically. So
absolutely.
how would you describe the skills that you had to acquire mentally? How has your mind evolved throughout the years?
I think going back to all the situations that I've been in, all the things that I've had to overcome, I think I've developed a really good sense of resiliency and willingness to adapt. Things are always changing, and you know, from one year to the next, I could be out of contract or I could, be injured or, whatever the case may be, and being able to adapt and being resilient to the hardships is a really big thing that I've developed over the years. Um, and just being persistent as well.
Yeah.
No matter the things, you're always going to face something. Growth is never like in a straight line or linear. There's ups and downs always.
Always.
Some struggles are bigger than others, but you're always going to be facing something. So being, persistent in the face of all those things so that over time, you continue to get through it and build that mental fortitude is a really big, you know, factor in leveling up, like you said.
Yep, 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 absolutely. Is there any specific advice, anything that you would give to any of our listeners, any of our viewers here, someone that's going through a hard time, someone that wants to play professionally, someone that's maybe having a problem in their relationship or anything? Is there any advice that you would give to someone?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I learned early on was that it's up to me. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of people who supported me and pushed me through different things, different phases in my life. But ultimately, I was the one that decided that I wanted to endure whatever the hardship was, or, you know, put myself through the different, workout regimens or things like that. It was always my choice. And, for anybody that's going through like a tough time, do anything you can now to make tomorrow a little bit easier. Tomorrow will have its own set of problems, but if you're doing something now, at least you can say that you're trying to make your situation better rather than hope for something to happen. that will help you. It's only really up to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Now, tell me, what is Julian up to today? What's Julian doing? Where is he playing? What's going on?
Yeah, so I recently just signed with Oakland Roots. So I'm back in the Bay Area, not too far from where I went to college at Santa Clara. So I'm really excited to be back. And this year is a really big year for Oakland because, we're back in the Coliseum where the Oakland A's used to play and where the Raiders used to play. So the community is really getting behind, having a team back in that stadium. And this weekend is our home opener, and we've already sold out. I think we're on track to sell out, but we've already sold like over 22,000 tickets. So
22,000 tickets?
yeah, so it's gonna be
Wow.
a big home opener. But unfortunately, I'm probably not gonna be in the game because I just tore my MCL. So that's another thing that I've kind of been dealing with recently, and it sucks. It really sucks to be out, and there's nothing more that I want to do and just be on the field and play in this big game. It would be the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of,
Wow.
but I'm probably gonna miss out on it. But I've been doing well with my rehab, and I am about 4 weeks post, post incident.
Yeah.
So I'm getting closer to returning to the field, and I'm just eager to get back. But I've been having surprisingly a good attitude, not surprisingly, but more surprised than I thought I would be. Um, Having a good attitude towards the whole rehab process. This is my first like actual injury. I've had like little, ankle sprains or like being tied here and there, but actual like where I injured something,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a shock for me because I've gone my whole career without having anything, and now having to deal with this, and having to miss out on the first few games and the biggest crowd to play in front of, and such a historic game for the community, for the team. It sucks, but I can't really do anything about it other than just kind of get
Do
back.
your part. Do what you
Yeah,
can. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
And
So
just a
yeah,
little,
that's good.
sorry, no, just a little context because I got to figure it out how to post, how to edit everything. So today, as we're recording this is March 19th,
Yeah,
25. So
yeah,
this next weekend will be the home opener. So hopefully I'm able to figure it all out and post this podcast as soon as possible. So if you guys are watching this now, you at least you know more or less what day today is.
yeah, yeah. But hopefully, I'm back into the squad by next weekend. I'm really pushing my rehab and trying to do everything right so I can come back as soon as possible. And I'm eager. I'm hoping to get into the starting lineup once I come back, and just really shoot for the stars. But yeah, that's what I'm doing on the field with my soccer career. But now I'm also trying to shift a little bit and offer my expertise and my experiences. And I've been working on a website this past month and maybe a couple
Yeah, yeah.
months.
Tell us
And
more. Tell us more about
yeah,
Julian, the
so
business guy now.
I know I never thought that I'd kind of shift into this while I'm playing. But like I said, I'm working on a website, and it's up, it's running, and I'm offering my, like I said, my services. So anybody that's aspiring to kind of learn how to, you know, deal with their struggles or deal with, anything they're going through, whether it be soccer, relationships, like I feel like I can offer that kind of mentorship, offer that, outlet if somebody doesn't have it, and kind of give my advice and guidance to anybody that feels they need it. So my website is jbsoccermentoring.com, and kind of offers one-on-one.
JBsoccermentoring.com.
Yes, my
Okay.
initials, JB, Julian
I
Bravo.
will put all the details here in the
Yeah,
description of the episode as well.
perfect. Thank you. but yeah, I'm offering, one-on-one sessions, very intimate, just me and whoever ever wants to hear my advice,
Is it
and
on
help.
the is it for example soccer related things? Is the
Yes,
technical side, tactical, also mental? You're gonna focus on everything?
it's yeah, more holistic. So whatever you're looking for, if you're, you know, feeling like you don't have um, the right idea to for private sessions, or if you want me to help you look at your game film, or you just want someone to talk to and kind of help you navigate through any sort of hardships you're going through, like I feel like I can offer my experiences and expertise in various areas. So any
Absolutely.
young aspiring soccer players who are looking for that guidance, I'm willing to help offer that.
Whoever does, they will be in very, very good hands. That is for sure. And
Thank you.
Julian, who inspires you nowadays? Well, who do you strive to be? Who do you want to become? What are your next goals? Tell me a little bit more about that.
I mean, I am aspired to be my best self all the time. So, looking back, like I'm really grateful and thankful to all the younger versions of myself that constantly pushed through all those adversities, to help me get to where I am today. So, if I can make my future self proud, like that's my ultimate goal. And I've I'm having aspirations to get back into the MLS, or play for a top European team. I really want to play at the highest level I can. Play on the national team. I still want to shoot for the highest level I can possibly go to. Um, I really want to play as long as I can and really take it as far as I can.
Good, good, good. Do you have any role models? Do you have any on the field that you aspire to be like? Do you have any idols? Do you have anyone that you really look up to?
In terms of like a particular player, I really grew up loving the way Ronaldinho plays. I don't play that position, but just like the 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 way he played so freely and with so much flair, it was just like a really it was really joyful to watch. It's almost like he was a gift for other people to watch play. Um, so I feel like I try to emulate like that confidence and that just being free on the field, because it's almost like he was an artist, with all the things that he did. Um, in terms of off the field, you know, my dad is somebody that is a really good role model for my family. He's what I think a good man is. And, I try to be the best version of myself because of the example that he set for my family and for me. And, just trying to, emulate what a good man is, I think of my dad. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Gerardo, yes, I know that. I know
Yeah,
you
very good
come from
man.
a yeah, you come from a great family. To me, it's no surprise that you are who you are. Your family is just incredible, and your little brother that I ended up coaching too. I used to call him Bravito.
Yeah.
Dieguito Bravo. I'm
Yeah.
sure you're gonna watch this too, so
Yeah.
I'm saying hi to you as well. Jules, I have a couple more for you. So you've worked with me as part of the 1% Club, and I wanted to ask you what does getting 1% better to you mean?
It's it's just a almost like a habit, Um, whatever you can do right now, like there's no better time than now. Anything, any small increment of improving yourself, that's getting 1% better. If eating you're eating right, as opposed to, going out and having that dessert, that's a win. That's a small win. But there's another side of it too. If you're um just looking to get better, like, sorry, I'm not explaining this right. There's different levels to it, but being 1% better is just doing the bare minimum of applying yourself and, you know, just improving so that tomorrow you're 1% better than, you were today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, that's great. That is awesome. And I have one final question for you. We talk about the hardships that you've gone through, all the lessons. I started the 1% club in my very lowest point, where I was going through so many difficult things at the same time that I didn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. That day was December 9th, 2019. It was the day that I turned 40 years old. The day after my birthday is December 10th. So ever since that day, I've been on the journey of becoming 1% better daily, and I have not skipped a day, and I will not. I've become a lot more self aware. I am becoming the best version of myself. So, if you were to go back in time and give your younger self some advice, what point in time would you go back to, and what would you say to your younger self?
Yeah, there's one particular moment that really comes to mind, and that's when I got called up to the ODP team for the second time. So I remember getting called into the ODP camp for the first time, and I was really happy and super excited to be getting that recognition. I went to the camp and ultimately didn't make the final cut. So I was really, put down and, you know, as you would if you don't make the team. Um,
Of course.
but then I was lucky enough to get called in the second time, and I was hesitant to go back. I told my dad, I just don't really feel like going back and, you know, going through that shame of not making the team again. And ultimately I decided not to go, because I didn't want to try try out again and then not make the team and face that same feeling. Um, but looking back, I'd give that advice to try, to go and put yourself out there and give it another shot, because, you know, as I got older, those guys continue to get that recognition. They started to get called up into the national team and things like that. And I'll never know if I would have been able to be on that level. And, you know, I don't know if I would have made the team for the second time if I would have tried, you know. And I felt regret afterwards because, I left it up to, a what if, what if I would
Yeah.
have gone, what if things would have gone differently. Um, so I guess the advice I'd give is to my younger self is don't leave it up to the what ifs. And I've kind of understood that lesson. I don't think that
Yeah.
I left have ever done that again, to leave it up to that what if. Um, because that feeling of missing out and having that kind of linger in the back of my mind was way worse than if I had gone and tried out and not made the team.
Absolutely. You never know.
Um,
You never know.
so yeah, that's the kind of the thought process I have behind the advice I'd give to my younger self.
Thank you very much. So, guys, whoever is going through anything, any hardships, keep on going, keep on fighting, keep on trying your best. Some of the mantras that I live by is one more day, one more battle, 1% better. One more day is a blessing from God. The fact that you are alive today, that you woke up, that you are here, that you are listening means you are conscious, you are aware, you were giving another opportunity to live your life. So it may not be where exactly where you want to be, but it is a blessing. one more battle. The battle, as Julian said, the battle is always you against you. You against your fears, your insecurities, your uh, lack of confidence, whatever it may be that you feel like you are not enough. Yes, you are. Keep on going. And 1% better, you don't have to do a whole lot, but every day you got to do something. You got to take that step towards becoming the best version of yourself. If you're not there yet, that is not a problem. That is why we're all here. We're here to evolve, to learn. And my objective is to help all the people that are going through some type of difficulty, as Julian also said. The only constant is change. So the fact that we always think, oh, the day that I achieve X, Y, and Z, my life is going to change. Yes, it will, but you're not going to avoid the hardships, the problems, the difficult moments. It's a matter of learning how to navigate and not avoid. The fact is, they will come. Whether is you are an academy player, you are an aspiring college player, you are a college player, you are a pro player, we all have problems. The problems are just different. So you've heard now from someone that has gone through the whole journey, the whole soccer career, and is currently playing professionally. He's had plenty of difficulties, and as he said, as he said beautifully, it's a matter of learning, evolving, developing, getting better. Nobody's perfect. We're all humans. We are all here to help each other out as well. I appreciate you guys watching this. Julian, bravo! I truly appreciate. This is going to be recorded. This is going to be part of my memory forever. I can't thank you enough for being here, for being part of this. This is a dream that I've always had. I've always wanted to do it, and now it's becoming a reality. And I'm glad and honored to have had the pleasure to have helped you a little bit in your career to get you to where you are. But you did the most important part. You always had a lot of belief. You always kept on doing your part. And like we said before, you do yours and God will take care of the rest. Any final words, anything before we wrap up?
No, thank you. I mean, I'm really grateful to have been on this new journey in your life with the podcast, and thank you for the constant guidance you continue to give me, and you gave me when I was younger. I think that the lessons that I learned from you were, you know, very valuable, things that I carry into today with my career and my life. So thank you for all of that. And, thank you again for having me on your first episode. It's exciting to see where this is going to go. So
We will see. We will
yeah,
see. Hopefully, one day we can look back at March 19th, 25, and
yes,
yeah, maybe it will be a memorable day.
yes, absolutely.
Jules, thank you so much. I truly
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Love you, brother. Take care.
Love you too. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you. All right.